What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to work on a MERN application. So today the basic idea is to do a login and registration application, just a simple one, where we're going to do some functionalities for the login and the registration, and we are going to do the authentication as well. And we're not going to focus much part on after logging in. So basically we'll just design a normal page where you're just going to see the name of the user who has logged into the system. And other than that, what we want to do is we will have a logout button, which will be helping you to log out of the system by removing the tokens that has been generated from logging in, removing it from the local storage. So we will be using the local storage in this aspect. And one more thing I'm going to tell you that this is totally raw. I haven't done any sort of coding before in Vim or neovim. So this is the first time I'm just doing it instead of VS Code. So let's get started. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. So let's get into it. Okay, so I have the directory created already, so I'm going to get inside that. Alright, so I am already in. Now I'm going to create two directories. One is a backend, and I'm going to write npx create react app, and I'll be naming it frontend. Alright, so as you can see that the app has been created. So if I do an ls, you can see that we have two folders. One is the frontend and the other one is the backend. So I'm going to do some changes. Like if I go inside the frontend folder, so I need to go with cd and do an ls. You can see that we have some of the files like git ignore, and there is also another hidden folder that is .git. We can move this from the root from this frontend folder to the root folder, but I don't think I need to show this in the video. So I'm going to keep this as it is, and I am going to open up another terminal where I'm going to go to the directory. So okay, so I'm going to cd into the backend folder, and here I'm going to write npm init -y. So I'm initializing a node application. So now what we can do here in this folder is we can go to the package. We can create a package.json by installing some of the dependencies that we need. So some of the dependencies that we want to install are, first of all, Express, then of course we will be needing JSON web token, then bcrypt.js, we need mongoose, and also .env. Okay, so let these things get installed first, and while this is happening, I think, okay, we already have everything, so let's do an ls and see. Okay, so we have all the files and folders that we need. So now at first let's go to the front end and let's see what we have there. So right now we will be focusing on the backend first, and then we'll come to the front end. So let's go to the other prompt, and here let's start by creating a file. So I'm going to go with an repo, and the name of the file will be a server.js. So this is the name of the file which has already been created. If I go with the ls, you can see that there is a server.js. So now, before writing any sort of code in the server.js, what I need to do is I will go to the package.json, and here I'm going to add another line. Here, after main, I'm going to write type, and this type will be a module. Okay, this is one of the things that we want, and let's just keep this test script. It's not necessary for our purpose, but even so, let's write start dev. This is a script that we want, and here the script will be nodemon server.js. This is one thing, and for production build, that is just start, this will be node server.js. Okay, so I'm going to save this and quit. Okay, now one more thing is that what we want to do is install nodemon as a dev dependency. So what we will do is npm I -D nodemon. So this is going to install nodemon. This is going to take a little bit of a while, so we'll get back. And okay, so it's already installed. Now what we can do is go to the server.js. So I'm going to open the file with nvim server.js. So right now I think I'm going to take off my camera, and I'll come back after the video. Okay, here goes. So let's start with the imports. import express from express, import course from course, import mongoose from mongoose, import JWT from JSON web token, then import bcrypt from bcrypt.js and import .env/config. Okay, so these are some of the imports that we will be needing, and right now let's just save this file and we'll come back to this later because we need to create the models for the MongoDB. So let's get into that. So in this backend folder, as you can see that this is a folder structure, what we want to do is create a directory which is called models. So now if I go to ls, you can see that there is a folder called models. So what we want to do is go to the models folder, and here we want to create a file which is called user.js. Okay, so if I go to ls, you can see that there is a file called user.js. So now what we want to access the file, and we edit the file. Here we are in user.js. Now in this file, at first let's import mongoose from mongoose and const user. So we are going to define the user schema, mongoose.schema. I think I am going to write it this way. So at first we will have name, and this will be of the type string, and it will be required. So the required will be set to true. Okay, just like name, we will have email, where the type will be string and required will be true. Just like that. After email, we will be having password, where the type will be string and required will be true. Okay, so this is the things. I mean, these are the columns, I would say. Now we need to mention the collection. So in that case, the collection will be users. Okay. So after this, we just need to export this module. So export default. This is a mongoose model, and inside that we have user data, which is this user. Okay, so we're going to save this file and go outside. Okay, now let's get back to the backend folder, and we are going to get back to the server.js. So we are going to open it with nvim server.js. Okay, so after the imports that we had already done, let's move on. So we are going to import the user that we have created, the user model. So from this will be models user.js. Okay, now const app is equals express, then we are going to have a port, which let's just define it process.env.port. If not, then let's head to 5000. So at this moment, as we do not have any .env files, so there is nothing specified in the .env file as port. So if that is not found, we're going to head to 5000. So the port 5000 will be used in this case. Okay, now we also need to allow course, so the data can be accessed, or the APIs can be accessed from the front end. And we also want to have express.json, because we are going to deal with some of the JSON data. Okay, now mongoose.connect. This is the MongoDB URL that we are going to connect, and we can see it from MongoDB Atlas. I'm going to show you a little bit later. So let's go with MongoDB. This is a local host, and the port is 27017. And alongside that, the name of the collection or the name of the table, in any way you say, login register. Okay, so this is the name. Let's start with the routes. We are going to have two routes. One is a register route and the other one is a login route. Both of them are post methods. So we're going to go with app.post. At first, let's go with the register one. So register, and we will have this as sync, request and response. Okay, so let's have a try log at first. So const new password equals await decrypt dot hash rec dot body dot password attempt. So basically with this line, what we're doing is we are having a password. We're setting a password from the frontend, from the registration page, and this password, when it comes or when it hits the URL register, it comes to the backend, and before being stored into the MongoDB database, or the MongoDB collection, what happens is we are just hashing this password into a different sort of encryption. So the original password is not directly stored in the database, and it cannot be extracted or it cannot be visible. So that's why we want to encrypt using the bcrypt.js library from JavaScript. So after this, what we want to do is await user.create. So this user is the schema that we have created, or the model that we have created. So we're going to create this data. So for this, we have name, which is coming from the request.body.name. Then we have email, which comes from request.body.email. And after this, we will be having the password, which is a new password instead of request body password. So this is a new password that we're storing into the MongoDB collection. Okay, so once this is done, what we can do is we can have a response. So res.json here, what we can do is status, have the status to OK, and after that we can leave this and go for a catch block where we can fall into any sort of errors. So in that case, we just want to have a response.json. Here we will have the status to be error, and for the error, we are going to pass the error message. Okay, so basically this is the API, or this is the route for the registration, and now we will be heading to the login. So for that, let's write app.post. This is a post request as well, so we will have login, and once again this is an async request response with an error function. Okay, in this case, at first what we're going to do is, with the email that we have received, we are going to check that if that user is already available in the MongoDB collection. So for that, we're going to write const user equals await user dot find one, and here we are going to go with email, which is the request.body.email. Okay, then once we have this, what we can do is check if not user. So we are going to return with the status of error, and the error message will be invalid login. And if that is not the case, then we're going to go with const is password valid. So this is the place where we're checking the password. So in this case, what we're going to do is await bcrypt dot compare. So in case of the bcrypt dot compare, we're going to compare the password that is sent from the database, password that is sent from the frontend, so for your password, and we're going to match it with the user.password. So as you have already seen that we have set user as the already entered entry from the collection. So we're going to check whether the passwords are similar or not. So once this is done, we're going to check if this is valid or not. So in that case, if it's password valid, then only we can go with const token equals jwt.sign, and inside that we're going to have name as user.name, and we will have email as user.email. That is an entry from the collection. And after that, we can have secret 123. So once we obtain this, what we can do is go for a return, and in the return we're going to have response.json. In this, we're going to have status will be okay, and the user is the token. Basically, we're sending this token back to the frontend, and then we can extract the username, I mean the name or the email from this user. We're going to see it once we work with the frontend. So let's set this to token. This is one of the cases, and if this is not the case, then we will go to the else block. So in case of the else block, what we want to do is return response.json, and here we're going to have the status as error, and the user is false because there is no user. Okay, so I guess this is up to what we wanted. So the final thing that we need to do is make the app listen. So app.listen. So in this case, what we will have is port, and then fallback, where we are going to write console.log, and inside this we're going to write server is listening to port, and then port. Okay, so basically that's what we wanted, and let's save the file. And let's close it. Okay, so we have what we wanted from the server side. I don't think we need anything here. So what we can do right now is directly run the server. So if you have already seen the package.json, we have written some scripts. So we're going to use nodemon for starting the server. So in this case, the nodemon server script is start dev. So we will write npm run start dev. Okay, so I have a little bit of a mistake. So I'm going to abort this. So the mistake that I made is I need to go open nvim, and with nvim I need to go to the models and users. Okay, so here if you see, I made a spelling mistake for default, so this will not be okay. Now I guess this is correct, so I think I can save it and quit. So now if I try to run the server, and you can see that server is listening to port 5000, so the server is running absolutely fine. Now, what we can do is go to the other page, or the other tab. Here we are going to work with the frontend right now. So now, what we are going to do is, at first we are going to install some of the dependencies that we need. So basically, the dependencies that we are going to be needing are as follows. So at first we are going to need buffer, we need JSON web token. I don't think we are going to need anything else actually, so let's start with these two right now. Okay, so now as we have the dependencies set, now what we can do right now is at first try and run the application. So we will write npm start. So as you can see, the React app is running fine. So we're going to take this to the other window, and we are going to bring it once we need. So I'm just keeping it there. Okay. Now, what we want to do at first is I'm going to open another tab, and here I'm going to cd into the place. Okay, so we are already in the frontend directory. Now, at first, we are going to do an ls, and you can see what we have. So if we go to the source folder, cd into the source folder and do an ls there, you can see we have some of the files. So in this place, we want to create a directory which is called pages. So I'm going to write mkdir pages. Okay. Now, what we want to do is at first go to the app.js and make some changes. App.js. Okay, so as you can see, we have the app.js open. Okay, so as you can see, I have removed everything within this div class name app. I have removed each and every single line here. And in this app.js, what we are going to do is we are going to specify some routes. So now I think I remember that we also need to have React Router DOM. So for that, let's install React Router DOM. So let's head back and close the frontend server. And let's install React Router DOM. And we want the version to be 5. I think the version is 5.2.0. Yes. So the version is 5.2.0. 5.2.0. Okay, so we're going to start again. And while this starts, you're going to see just a blank page instead of the React icon rotating. So right now, I think what we want to do at first is if I go to these lines, I think I'm going to remove, let's try removing every single line. It works in IFCE. No, it doesn't work here. So it doesn't matter, we're going to write every single line here. And we want to import router as just simply router. We want route from React Router DOM. And we also want to import some of the files. So we are going to head back to this later, or we are going to import this later because we don't have these files created yet. So at this point, let's go with const app equals an arrow function. Inside this, we are going to have a simple return. And in this return, we will be having a div with a class name app. And let's close this. Okay, so inside this, we are going to have router and closing of the router. We're going to write every single routes here. So let's save this for now, and we'll come back to this later. Or maybe I think we can write the routes right now. So in that case, let's just write the route. So one of the routes, the path will be simply login, and this will be exact. And we are going to define component, but as we don't have this now, so we are just going to close it like this. We will come back to this and define the components. Then we will have another route. So this will be register, and this will also be exact. So closing. And finally, we have the third route, which is the welcome route. That is, once you log into the system, you can enter welcome. I think I'm going to make these small letters instead of capital. Okay. I think login is okay. So let's close this like this. Alright, so now one more thing is export default app. And I think we can save it now. And quit. Okay, so we have the app.js written. We will come back to this to specify the components that we're going to create right now. And in this case, we have named pages. So what we want to do is we are going to go inside the pages directory, and here we're going to make 4 files. So each of these will be, first let's have login.js. Then let's have register.js. Then let's have Welcome.js. And finally, we will be having index.js. So basically, this is a barrel file. I have already said things about the barrel file before as well, so I think by this time you already know. But otherwise, if you don't know, we are using this barrel file to make the imports in one single line instead of importing each and every single component and writing one line for each component in wherever we are importing. So in our case, we are going to import these three modules or these three components from the app.js, and we do not want to write a redundant number of lines. So instead of writing 4 or 5 lines, or in this case 3 lines, we are going to import these in just one single line. So I'm going to show this to you after a while. But right now, let's just enter these files, and then let's start working. So at first, I think let's do the register file. So what we want to do is nvim register.js. Okay, so in this file, let's write import React, and we are going to use useState hook. So we're importing this already from React. Then we're going to use history, and this is imported from React Router DOM. Okay, so now let's write the function. We have const history, which is the use history. Then we are going to have const name, and that name use state. We have an empty string. Then we're going to have email, set email, and this is also a use state with an empty string. Then we are going to have password and set password. This is also going to be use state and an empty string. Okay, now we're going to write a function which is called register user. So this will be an asynchronous function, so async, and we're going to pass event in this. So again, this is an arrow function. Here we're going to at first write event.prevent default. Okay, now let's start with the response, which is actually what we will be getting when we hit or make a post request to the backend. So we will be doing a await fetch. So I'm using fetch here instead of Axios. So basically it's the same thing. HTTP //localhost, and we have specified the port 5000 because the backend is running on the port 5000. So we're going to hit that, and we are going to hit register. So here, what we want to do is this. Okay, so inside that, we're going to have method as post, then we're going to have headers, and in this case, the headers, we will have content type. This is application /JSON. Okay, so once we have this, then we're going to pass the body. So in this case, for the body, we're going to do JSON.printify, and in this case, the items inside this are name, email, and password. Okay. Then once we have this, what we want to do is get outside of this response, and we will have const data equals await response dot JSON. Okay, so now what we're going to do is compare the data, or we're going to check the status of the data to see if this is okay. So we're going to write if data dot status equals triple equal actually in case of JavaScript. Okay, so we're going to have history dot push login. So basically what happens is, if after the registration, if the status we get from the response is okay, then we're going to push the user to the login page to log into the system. So this is the part, and once we have this, I think we can have our return block. So in the return block, we're going to have just at first a div element, and inside the div we're going to have an h1 where this is called registration page. Then after this we're going to have a form, and on submit of this form we're going to call the function that we have written, that is register user, and inside the form let's have some inputs. So we have one input, two input. The first one is the name, then it's the email, then we have the password, input for the password, and we are going to have another input which is the submit button. Okay, so at first, in case of first input, we will have the value as name. Then I think let's just write things in a different line. So we can have onChange, and with onChange we are going to have an event. We are going to set name as e.target.value. Okay, then after this onChange, we're going to have type as text, and we will have placeholder which is email. Okay, so now for the second input. First of all, the value will be email. Then we are going to have onChange, and in this onChange we are going to have e with set email, and inside this set email we have e.target.value. Okay, and after this onChange we are going to have type will be email, and the placeholder will be email. Okay, I think the input above this placeholder is name instead of email. Okay, so likewise what we can do here is the value will be password. Then onChange we're going to have e with set password as e.target.value. Okay, and then the type will be password, and the placeholder will be, this will be password. Okay, and for the submit button you can just go with the type will be submit, and the value will be register. I think we can put it in inverted comma. Okay, so basically that's what we had from the register page. And finally what we will do is export default register. Okay, so I guess we can save this And let's head back to login. This will look also something similar like the register page. So let's get started with, and we're going to have use date, from React, then const login, const email, get email, use state, empty, const password, set password, use state. Okay. Now we're going to write a function which is called login user. And again, it will be an asynchronous function with event, again an arrow function. So the first things first is event dot event default. Okay. Now let's hit the post request. Response will be await h, and here we're going to get http localhost:5000 to the login page, and here I think what we can do is first let's have method. This is the post method, then headers, content type, application /JSON. After the headers, we have the body where we can write this JSON dot 25, and here we are going to have email and password, these two values. And once we have this, I think we can move on. Const data equals await response dot JSON. Okay. Now we're going to check if data dot user, then local storage dot set item with the name token will be data dot user. So as you can see that the token that we have sent from the frontend as the user in the form of a token. So we are setting this user as with the name of token in the local storage, so we can extract the data, the name, the email from the user in the frontend, so that we can display it once we are logged into the welcome page. So let's move with it. And once this is done, maybe we can just alert that login successful. Okay, so that's what we can do, and with that we can have window.location.href, and here we can proceed to the welcome page. This is one thing. If this is not the case, then what we can do, okay, I think a little bit of change. In the else block, what we can do is we're going to do an alert, just an alert. So the alert will be wrong user credentials. Okay, So once we have this, I think we can go for the return, and inside this we can have our div. So inside this div, maybe I think we can go with the class name. This class name will be login. Then let's have an h1 where we can go with login page and close the h1. We can have a form on submit. We can call the function which is called login user. Now inside the form we're going to have some input fields. So I guess we are going to have 3 input fields. Each of them are the email for logging in. Then we are going to have the password. And finally we are going to have the submit. So let's try and write the one for email first. The value is email. Then on change, we're going to have e that email will be e dot target dot value. Then we're going to have the type will be email, and after the type we're going to have the placeholder. The placeholder will be email. Okay. So now the same thing will be done for the password as well. So first the value, this value will be password. Then we're going to have on change, and inside this on change we're going to have e with set password will be e dot target dot value. Okay. Then we're going to have the type will be password, and the placeholder, this will also be password. Okay, and finally for the submit button, you can go with the type will be submit, and the value, this will be login. Okay, so I guess with this we have the login.js done. So the last thing we need to do is export this, export default login. Okay, I think now we can save this, and let's get out of here. Now the last page that we want to design is the welcome page. We're just going to get back to it in a moment. Okay, so let's get into the welcome page. Now inside the welcome page, let's import React use state and use effect from React. Then we are going to import JWT from JSON Web Token. We will be having use history, and this will be from React router DOM. Now let's have const welcome. So let's have our function where we first of all define what history is, which is use history. Then we're going to have const user. So here we're going to set the name of the user so that we can display it in the frontend, like welcome then this user. This will be a use state. And initially, let's just try and name the value as user, but it's definitely going to change because once a user is logged in, we are going to place a name instead of this user. So let's have a use effect, and inside this, we are going to have an arrow function and the dependency array. Okay, so here we are going to take the token from the localStorage get item. Here we are taking the item which has been named as token. So we're going to check if this token is true, then we're going to have an authenticated user. And here we're going to decode the token. Okay. So now let's check. If not auth user, then what we can do is localStorage.removeItem token, or and we can do a history.replace taken to the login page. If that's not the case, else again in the else block, what we can write is an alert. Then no, in this else we can go with the set user, because as I said that we are going to have the auth user set as a user because we're going to extract the name of this user, so we're going to see it anyway. So if you want to see the authenticated user, so I think in case of auth user, after the decode, I think we can go for a console log auth user. Okay, so we're going to come to it. Okay, so if that is not the case, we will be having another else where basically we do not want anybody to access the welcome page until and unless anybody is logged in. So if anybody tries to type the URL with /welcome, they won't be going to the welcome page, rather they will be redirected to the login page. So in that case, what we can do is make an alert and say please log in, and with that we can take them to history.replace to the login file, or maybe to the login page. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to have a function which is logout user. So we will be having a button for logging out, so we want the user to log out, and then that user will be returned to the login page. So for that, what we're going to do here is an arrow function. At first it's an alert, like once it's logged out, then we can go with successfully logged out, and with that we can have localStorage.removeItem token and history.replace login. I don't need this dot here actually, so I'm removing that. Okay, so basically this is the thing, and finally once we have this, we can design the return part. It will be a simple div, and in this div what we can do is have an h1 tag which says welcome inside. Then we can try an h3 tag where we are going to have user.name. So this is basically the user. We're going to see it as we're console logging the auth user, so we're going to see it anyway. So user.name, and let's close the h3. And finally we want to have a button, as I said. Input type will be submit, and the value is logout, and we have an onClick function which will be calling out the logout user function. With that we can self-close the tag. Okay, so I think that would be it for the welcome. So finally we just need to export the default welcome. Okay, so we can save it and we can quit. So as we have the 3 pages designed, we can now go to the index.js, that is a barrel index.js inside this pages directory. So once we are in, what we can do is export. It's taking us some of the snippets. I don't think we need any of these. Okay, we can write export default as login from login, then export default as register from register, export default as welcome from welcome. So this is basically the barrel index file, so we can save it and quit this file. Okay, so now let's head back from pages to the source folder, and what we can do is we want to go to the app.js folder actually. So we can type nvim app.js, and right now the first thing will be to import the components. So we are going to write import. We have login, we have register, and we have welcome from pages. That will be it. And inside these routes, what we can do right now is actually define the components. So first, for login, we're going to define the component as login. Then for the register, we can define the component as register. I think this will be a capital letter. And finally, for welcome, we can define the component as welcome. Okay, so with that, we can save this app file. Now, if you see, I think we have made a little bit of mistake done in the login page. So for that, let's go to the login page. Let's quit this first. Save it and quit. So we will cd into the pages, and then we can nvim login.js. So the mistake that I have made is actually here. In the email input, this will be an arrow actually. So if I try and save it, I hope there won't be any sort of mistakes. So let's just wait and see. Okay, so yes, there are some of the mistakes that I need to solve actually. For every of these unchange, I need to start a bracket, a curly brace actually, and end with a curly brace. Same thing goes for an ending curly brace and the starting curly brace. This is the case for the login page. So I guess we can save it and we can quit. Now we need to go to the register page. So inside this page as well, we have the same things to change. For every of the on change, we have to wrap these things up in curly braces instead of regular brackets. So let's just fix these things. I guess this will be it. So we can save it and we can quit. Now let's see what we have. Okay, another thing in the register page actually is here. Okay, we want value, not tag value, so we need to remove this. I think this just came by mistake. So again, save and quit. Well, I guess we didn't have any sort of errors, but you might see this error, as you can see here, that module not found cannot resolve crypto. This is basically something that happens due to having encryption decryption. So what we can do is we can close the server, the frontend server. Well, I guess now you can see that we can go to the register page, and you can see that we do not have any CSS to it yet. So what we want to do is add some CSS. So let's head back to, let's open nvim app.css, and what we want to do is remove everything. What we can do is, I have the CSS, so I'm not writing these things anyway, so I just copied it. You can find the link of my GitHub repository in the description below, so it won't be a problem for you to find out and use it. So here I think I'm going to save this and quit. All right, now if we bring this back and refresh, there you go. You can see a registration page. So let's just create a user. So suppose this is my name. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. This is my name, this is my email ID, and I have given my password. So I think I'm going to change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe just something like that. If I try and register, so I don't think I need to do that. So it brings me to the login page. So if I go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with my username or my email, if I try and log in, you see login successful. If I click OK, it takes me to the welcome page, and you can see that my name is printed. So you can see that my name is being printed here. So if I go with a logout, it says logged out. If I go to OK, it takes me to the login page. Now, as you can see that I don't have anything to log in. I mean, there is nobody logged into the system. So in this case, if I go to welcome, if I try and go to welcome, it says please log in, and it takes me back to the login page. It doesn't allow me to go to the welcome page. So basically, that's not so much of a security, I would say, but basically for the purpose of this video, like to understand the login registration with an authentication into a Fullstack application, I think this should do it, at least for somebody who's a very basic beginner, or should I say something like that. So basically, that's what I wanted to show, and that's it for the video. So I'm going to bring myself back. Okay, so that's it for the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. So if you did, hit that thumbs up. I know there were a lot of errors in this video, and basically I showed this. My motive is to show you that every single error I face, so that whenever you face these errors, you can solve this. And one more thing is that after you're done coding or following this tutorial alone, if you try to compile and fall into the error, what you can do, the most generic thing that I can say is you can head on to the GitHub page, my GitHub repository of this project that I'm going to leave the link down in the description below. You can go into that, and then you can copy the package.json from the frontend file, because I don't think you're going to face any sort of errors in the backend section. So in the frontend file, there is a package.json, so you can copy the content from the frontend section and then paste it on your package.json from your frontend, and then you can just go for an npm install or a yarn add that will install the dependencies as necessary. And once these are done, then I don't think you are going to face any sort of problems while running the application. So basically, that's it for the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. And once again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and like this video. So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.